I stood at my daughter Sarah's front door, covered in ash and soot from the wildfire that just destroyed my 200-acre cattle farm in rural Montana. My son-in-law Derek opened the door, took one look at me, and physically blocked the entrance. Derek sneered. "You'll ruin my Persian rug. I have no room for a homeless man in my house." Sarah appeared behind Derek, tears streaming down her face, but said nothing. My hand trembled as I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out a manila envelope containing my will. Derek's face drained of all color. The morning started like any other summer day in Paradise Valley. I woke at 5:30, just as I had every morning for the past 40 years. But this morning was different. The smell hit me first, sharp and acrid, cutting through the usual scents of hay and cattle. I walked to my bedroom window and saw the orange glow on the horizon. Maybe 3 miles out, maybe less. Smoke rose in thick columns against the dawn sky. My farm sprawled across 200 acres of some of the prettiest land in Montana, just outside Livingston. The property had been in my family since my father bought it in 1948, when land was cheap and dreams were possible. I raised 60 head of Angus cattle, good stock that brought fair prices at market. The farmhouse was a 2-story structure built in 1953, solid construction with Douglas fir beams and a stone foundation. My father built it with his own hands, and Id maintained it with mine. The barn stood 100 yards from the house, red paint faded to rust by decades of weather. Equipment shed beyond that, holding my tractor, baler, and all the tools accumulated over a lifetime of farming. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. It was home. My wife Margaret died 3 years back. Cancer took her in 6 months, faster than we could process what was happening. She'd been the heart of this place, the warmth in every room. After she passed, the house felt bigger, emptier, colder even in summer. But I kept working. The cattle needed tending, the land needed care, and work was the only thing that kept the loneliness at bay. Sarah grew up on this farm. I could still see her as a little girl, 6 years old, learning to ride horses in the south pasture. She'd fall off and climb right back on, fearless and determined. She helped with cattle drives, learned to mend fences, understood the rhythm of farm life. Those were good years, full years. She married Derek 10 years ago. He seemed decent at first, I'll give him that. Worked in commercial real estate in Bozeman, always wore expensive suits. Drove a BMW that looked out of place on our dirt roads. But he was polite, called me sir. Brought flowers for Margaret. We thought Sarah had done well for herself. After the wedding, things changed. Slowly at first. So slow you could miss it if you weren't paying attention. Derek started making comments about the farm being quaint, rustic, charming in that way. People use charming when they mean backward. He'd wrinkle his nose at the smell of cattle, make jokes about indoor plumbing that weren't quite jokes. Sarah moved to Bozeman with him, into a house I couldn't afford to heat for a month. She visited less and less. Holidays became brief. Duty visits where Derek checked his phone and Sarah looked tired. I told myself it was normal, natural. Children grow up, build their own lives. But Margaret worried. She saw things I didn't want to see. The wildfire moved fast. I called 911, then did the only thing I could. I got the cattle out, opened every gate, drove them toward the north pasture where Tom Crawford's land adjoined mine. 43 had made it out before the flames cut off my path back to the others. I watched 17 cattle die, heard their sounds, and there's no prayer that erases that memory. The house went next. I stood half a mile away on high ground and watched 50 years of my life burn. Margaret's photo albums, our wedding pictures, my father's pocket watch, the quilt her grandmother made, every birthday card, every memory given physical form, all turned to ash and smoke. The insurance documents were in there too, in the filing cabinet in my office. Everything was in there. When the flames died down enough for the fire trucks to get through, there was nothing left but blackened timber and stone. The barn collapsed into itself. The equipment shed melted. Even the old oak tree where Sarah's tire swing hung was just a charred skeleton. I called Sarah from a neighbor's phone. My voice broke when she answered. I explained what happened, trying to keep it together, failing. She cried too. Said, "Oh, Dad. Oh, no." Over and over. Then she said the words I needed to hear. "Come stay with us. We have plenty of room." I drove 3 hours to Bozeman in my truck, which smelled like smoke and had ash in every crack. I was still wearing the same clothes, covered in soot, looking like Id crawled out of hell. Maybe I had. Their house stood in an upscale suburban development, all manicured lawns and 3-car garages. Fountain in the front yard, decorative stones lining the walkway. The kind of place that required homeowner association approval to plant a tree. I parked on the street, not wanting to drip ash on their pristine driveway. I walked to the door and knocked. Derek answered. He looked at me, and his face did something I'll never forget. It closed. That's the only word for it. Every human emotion drained away, replaced by cold calculation. You'll ruin my Persian rug, he said. Not hello, not are you okay, not come in. Just concern for his rug. I stood there, 70 years old, having lost everything but the clothes on my back, and my son-in-law was worried about his carpet. I have no room for a homeless man in my house, he added, and his voice held something worse than anger. It held contempt. Sarah appeared behind him then. I expected her to push past Derek, to throw her arms around me, to be the daughter I raised. Instead, she stood there crying, silent, frozen. Derek's right, Dad, she whispered. And those 3 words hurt worse than watching my house burn. We just had the carpets cleaned. Maybe you could stay at a motel? Well, help with the cost. Something crystallized in that moment. Something hard and clear. My daughter had been changed, shaped into someone I didn't recognize, and the man responsible was standing in front of me, blocking his door. My hand had been shaking, but it steadied. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out the manila envelope I'd been carrying. The will, updated just 6 months ago, after Margaret's funeral, when I'd finally accepted I needed to plan for my own mortality. Derek's eyes locked onto that envelope. His whole body went rigid. The color left his face like someone had opened a drain. Derek's transformation was instant and complete. His sneer vanished, replaced by a smile so false it looked painful. Wait, Ansel, he said, voice suddenly warm. I was just joking. You know me. Dark humor. Terrible timing. Come in. Come in. Of course you're welcome here. Your family. He stepped aside, gesturing grandly toward the interior. Sarah looked confused by the sudden reversal, her tears still wet on her cheeks. I stepped inside, studying everything. White leather furniture that looked like it belonged in a magazine, not a home. Abstract art on the walls, the kind where you can't tell if it's upside down. Crystal chandelier hanging over a dining table that could seat 12. And there, dominating the living room floor, was the famous Persian rug. 12 feet by 18 feet, cream and burgundy. Probably worth more than my truck. Let me show you to the guest room, Derek said, his hand on my shoulder like we were old friends. You must be exhausted. Shower, rest, well-ordered dinner. The guest room was pristine, unused. Everything in shades of gray and white. I set the envelope on the nightstand and headed for the attached bathroom. The shower was one of those rainfall types with 6 jets. I stood under water so hot it hurt, watching ash and soot spiral down the drain. I scrubbed my skin until it was red, but I couldn't wash away what I'd seen in Derek's eyes at the door, or what I'd heard in Sarah's voice when she sided with him. I was drying off when I heard voices in the hallway. Derek and Sarah, arguing in harsh whispers. Do you know how much that farm is worth? Derek hissed. 200 acres in Paradise Valley? At least 2 million, maybe 3. Developers would kill for that land. We need to play nice. He just lost everything, Sarah said, her voice weak, defeated. Can't you show some humanity? Humanity doesn't pay for this house. Derek shot back. That land does. Your father's sitting on a gold mine and he's too stubborn to sell it. But now he's vulnerable. Now he needs us. This is our chance. I stood there dripping on their tile floor, listening to my son-in-law discuss my tragedy as an opportunity. You said you loved him, Sarah whispered. You said you cared about my family. Derek laughed, a sound with no warmth in it. I love what his land is worth. I care about our future. Don't be naive, Sarah. This is how the world works. I heard footsteps moving away, a door closing. I finished drying off and put on borrowed clothes Derek had left on the bed. Everything was too small, too tight. Derek was broader than me, and I'd lost weight since Margaret died. I looked in the mirror and saw an old man in ill-fitting clothes, displaced and dependent. Exactly what Derek wanted to see. I went downstairs. Derek had ordered Chinese takeout, spread across their granite kitchen counter in white containers. He was all smiles and concern now, acting the part of devoted son-in-law. Sit, he insisted. You need to eat. You've been through trauma. Sarah sat across from me, not meeting my eyes. I could see the guilt in every line of her body. Derek kept steering the conversation back to the farm. So, what are your plans? Insurance will cover the house, right? Will you rebuild? Or maybe, he paused, arranging his face into an expression of concern. Maybe this is a sign. A chance to retire. Move somewhere easier. You're not getting any younger, Ansel. Running a ranch alone at your age. I'm 67, I said. Not dead yet. Of course not. Of course not. I just mean, there are options. Good options. I know people. Developers who'd pay top dollar for that land. You could live comfortably for the rest of your life. No more hard labor. Before I could answer, Derek's phone rang. He glanced at the screen, excused himself, and walked into his home office. The phone was still on the counter, and another text came through. The screen lit up, and I could see it clearly from where I sat. J. Peterson, Paradise Valley Development Corp. The message read, heard about the Whitmore fire. Perfect timing. Owner will be desperate. Make your move. My blood went cold. I read it again, making sure I understood. Perfect timing. Make your move. Derek returned, smiling that empty smile. Just work, he said. Never stops. You know how it is. But I knew now. This wasn't opportunism. Derek hadn't just seen my tragedy as a chance. Had been waiting for it. Planning for it. Maybe even. And this thought made my hands shake, involved in creating it. I excused myself, said I was tired, went back to the guest room. I lay in the too-soft bed staring at the ceiling, putting pieces together I didn't want to fit. 3 years ago, right after Margaret died, Derek tried to convince me to sell the farm. Said I couldn't handle it alone. Said Margaret would want me to take care of myself. I refused. He got angry, called me stubborn, said I was wasting opportunity. 2 years ago, Derek brought a real estate agent to Thanksgiving dinner. Said it was a coincidence, an old friend passing through. The friend spent an hour asking questions about my land, water rights, access roads. I asked them both to leave before dessert. 1 year ago, Derek stopped visiting entirely. Said he was too busy. Work was demanding. Sarah could come alone. Looking back, I realized when the pressure to sell stopped. Not because he gave up, but because he changed tactics. I pulled out the manila envelope, opened it, read the will it had drafted. The lawyer, Patricia Donovan, had suggested specific language. She'd seen enough estate battles to know how to prevent them. The key passage was there, in the third paragraph. I leave my entire estate, including all land, livestock, equipment, and assets, to my daughter Sarah Whitmore Sutton, on the condition that she remain married to Derek Sutton for a period of no less than 5 years from the date of my death, or until such time as Derek Sutton demonstrates financial malfeasance, theft, or fraud against any family member, at which point the marriage condition is void and Sarah inherits free and clear. Patricia had explained her reasoning. If Derek's with Sarah for the right reasons, this won't matter. If he's after your estate, this protects her. She can leave him and still inherit, but he has to show his true colors first. I held that document in my hands and realized Patricia had been more right than she knew. Derek had shown his colors. I just needed to prove it. Morning came too early. I woke to unfamiliar sounds, the hum of their high-efficiency HVAC system. No roosters, no cattle. For a moment I forgot where I was, reached for Margaret across the bed, found only expensive sheets and emptiness. I got up, dressed in my own clothes that Sarah had washed overnight. They still smelled like smoke. Some things don't wash out. Derek had already left for work. Sarah was in the kitchen, making coffee with a machine that looked more complicated than my tractor. "Dad," she started, but I held up my hand. "I need to make some calls," I said. "Insurance first." I called Frank Drummond, my insurance agent for 30 years. Frank answered on the second ring. "Ansel," he said, and I could hear the pain in his voice. "I heard about the fire. I'm so sorry, but we need to talk." My stomach dropped. "What's wrong?" "Your policy lapsed 2 months ago." The world tilted. "That's impossible. I've never missed a payment." "Never. Not in 40 years. "I know," Frank said. "That's why I called you 3 times, left messages. The payment was returned. Bank said insufficient funds." "Frank, I've got 30,000 in that account. More than enough." "Had," he corrected gently. Past tense. I'm looking at the records now. Large withdrawal 3 months ago. $10,000. Cleared out your buffer. When the insurance payment tried to auto-draft, there wasn't enough to cover it. I asked him to email me the records. Sarah let me use her laptop. The PDF loaded and there it was. A withdrawal for $10,000. The authorization signature was digital, but the name on the approval was printed clearly. Sarah Whitmore Sutton, power of attorney. I stared at that screen for a long time. Sarah had financial power of attorney. Wed set it up after Margaret died, in case something happened to me. Emergency access, medical decisions, that sort of thing. I'd trusted her completely. Sarah, I called out. My voice sounded strange, hollow. She came into the room, saw what was on the screen, and her face crumbled. I can explain, she said. Please do. She sat down, wrapped her arms around herself. Derek said you were getting forgetful. He said you'd made some bad financial decisions, that someone needed to watch out for you. He convinced me to take the money, said Wed, invest it properly, give it back with returns. He said you wouldn't understand modern investing, that it was better not to worry you. Where's the money, Sarah? She started crying. He bought a boat, 26-foot cabin cruiser. Said it was a good investment, that we could rent it out, make money. But we never rented it. He just takes clients out on it. I closed my eyes. My daughter had stolen from me, not maliciously, maybe, but stolen nonetheless. And that theft had cost me my insurance, my safety net, any chance of rebuilding without help. There's more, she whispered. Derek's been planning to have you declared incompetent. Has talked to lawyers. He was waiting for the right moment, something that would make it look necessary. He said you couldn't be trusted to make good decisions about the land. He wanted conservatorship. The room felt smaller, airless. You knew this. I didn't want to believe it. I kept telling myself he was just worried about you, that his methods were extreme but his intentions were good. But after last night, seeing how he treated you at the door, she looked up at me, eyes red and swollen. I've been so stupid. Hez changed me into someone I don't recognize. I miss the farm. I miss you. I miss who I used to be. I reached across the table, took her hand. She was still my daughter, still the little girl who fell off horses and climbed back on. When did you stop standing up for yourself? I asked. Gradually, she said. So gradually I didn't notice until it was too late. Head criticized something small, the way I dressed, the friends I chose. It'd adjust. Then it would be something else. Eventually, it was easier to just agree with him, to be who he wanted me to be. We sat in silence for a moment, her hand in mine. I've missed the farm too, she said. I haven't been back in 2 years. Derek said it was too far, too inconvenient. But really, I think he didn't want me remembering. Didn't want me connected to anything that made me feel strong. The front door opened. Derek came back, said he'd forgotten a file. He walked into the kitchen and saw us sitting together, holding hands, and something shifted in his expression. Having a nice chat, he asked, voice pleasant, eyes cold. Just catching up, I said. Good, good. Family time is important. He grabbed a folder from the counter, but he was watching us, calculating. After he left, Sarah said, he knows we talked about something. He always knows. Let him know. I said, I'm done pretending. That evening, Derek came home early. He had that forced cheerfulness again, too bright, too loud. We had dinner, some kind of quinoa salad that tasted like cardboard. Derek dominated the conversation, talking about his deals, his clients, his success. Finally, I set down my fork. We need to talk about the $10,000. Derek's smile froze. What about it? Sarah told me everything. The boat, the plan to declare me incompetent. Your relationship with Paradise Valley Development. Derek's face went hard. I don't know what Sarah's been telling you, but she's confused, stressed. The fire has everyone upset. I saw the text message. I said, from Jay Peterson. About the fire being perfect timing. Derek stood up so fast his chair tipped backward. You went through my phone. It was on the counter. Screen lit up. Hard to miss. That's a violation of privacy. That message was about a different property. You're paranoid, old man. This is exactly why you need help managing your affairs. Sarah stood up too. Stop it, Derek. Just stop. I'm done with the lies. Sit down, Derek said, and his voice had an edge. I'd never heard before. Sharp. Dangerous. No. Sarah said, and I heard strength returning to her voice. I won't sit down. I won't be quiet. My father just lost everything and you're treating him like a problem to be managed. Derek turned on her. You ungrateful. He caught himself. Reset. I've given you everything. This house, this life. And this is how you repay me? Siding with him against me. You stole from him, Sarah said. You manipulated me into stealing from him. That was a loan, Derek insisted. An investment. In a boat, I said quietly. That you use for recreation. Derek grabbed Sarah's arm. Not hard, but firm. Controlling. We're not losing millions because of his tricks. Well, fight this. I saw fear flash across Sarah's face. Real fear. And I understood then that this had been happening for a long time. The control, the intimidation, the slow erosion of her will. I stood up slowly, moved between them. Let go of her. This is my house, Derek said. My wife. You don't give orders here. Sarah, I said, not looking away from Derek. Pack a bag. We're leaving. She's not going anywhere, Derek said, but Sarah pulled her arm free. Yes, I am. She went upstairs. Derek and I stood in his perfect kitchen, in his perfect house, staring at each other. You walk out that door, Derek said. You lose everything. Me, this house, your life here. Sarah came back down with a small duffel bag. I already lost everything, she said. I lost myself. Derek's face went purple with rage. You're making the biggest mistake of your life. Both of you. He'll make sure you regret this. He'll tie up that estate for years. You'll die before you see a penny. Old man? Maybe, I said, but at least he'll die free. We walked out. Derek shouted threats from the doorway, something about lawyers and lawsuits and destroying us. I didn't look back. Sarah and I got in my truck, and we sat there for a moment, both shaking. Where do we go? She asked. I know a place, I said. We drove in silence for the first hour. Sarah stared out the window, watching the suburbs give way to open country. I could see her shoulders slowly relaxing, tension draining away with each mile between us and Derek's house. Finally, she spoke. I tried to leave before. Twice. I glanced at her, but kept my eyes mostly on the road. What happened? The first time was 4 years ago. I packed a bag while he was at work, called a friend to pick me up. Derek came home early. Had installed tracking software on my phone without telling me. He knew I'd been researching divorce lawyers. He threatened to ruin me professionally, said Head. Tell everyone I was unstable, that I'd never work as a veterinary technician again. He had friends, connections. I believed him. And the second time, 2 years ago. I actually left that time. Stayed with a friend for 3 days. Derek showed up at her house with flowers and tears. Put on a whole performance. Said Head been stressed. That head change, that head go to counseling. Promised me everything I'd been missing. I believed him. She laughed bitterly. I wanted to believe him. It's easier, you know? Believing the lie. Harder to accept that the person you married, the life you built, was all false. It wasn't all false, I said. You're not false. What you felt was real, even if what he showed you wasn't. I wanted children, she said quietly. He kept saying, not yet. Not yet. Said I wasn't responsible enough. Looking back, I think he just didn't want anything that would divide my attention, create loyalty to anyone but him. We passed through Livingston, kept going east. The mountains rose up around us, big sky country stretching forever. This was the landscape Sarah grew up in, open and honest and real. I haven't been out here in so long, she said. I forgot how much I missed it. Derek kept you pretty isolated. I let him. That's what I can't get past. I let him. Sarah, what he did to you has a name. It's called coercive control. It's abuse, and it's not your fault. She started crying then. Not the quiet tears from before, but big, racking sobs. I pulled over onto the shoulder, and she leaned against me and cried like she was 10 years old again. I held my daughter and let her grieve for the years Shed lost. The person Shed become. The life that had been stolen piece by piece. When she finally quieted, I handed her napkins from the glove box. She wiped her face, took a shaky breath. Where are we going? She asked. Tom Crawford's place. Remember Tom, your friend from the army, Vietnam, has got a foreman's cabin on his ranch, said I could use it while I figure things out. We can both stay there. We drove another 40 minutes, turned onto a dirt road that wound through hills covered in sagebrush. Tom's ranch house appeared. A sprawling log structure had built himself in the 80s. His truck was parked out front, and he came out onto the porch as we pulled up. Tom Crawford was 72, lean and weathered like old leather. We'd served together in 68 and 69, came home, and promised to stay in touch. Unlike most promises made in war, We'd kept this one. "Ansel," he said, gripping my hand. "And Sarah, last time I saw you, you were about knee-high. I'm sorry about your farm," Tom said. "About all of it. Appreciate it, Tom. Come on, I'll show you the cabin." We walked about a quarter-mile to a small structure near the tree line. 1 bedroom, a pull-out couch, kitchenette, wood stove. Simple and clean. "It's not much," Tom said. "It's perfect," Sarah said, and she meant it. Tom helped us carry in our few belongings. Sarah only had her duffel bag. I had even less. "Stay as long as you need," Tom said. "And Ansel, I've been thinking about your land. Not much land left to think about." "That's just it." Tom's face was serious. "The wildfire. I've been hearing things." "What kind of things?" Tom pulled a business card from his shirt pocket. "Fire marshal's office called me 2 days ago. I'm adjacent to your property, so they wanted to know if I saw anything unusual." I told them about the trucks. "What trucks?" "Night before the fire. Around 11:30. Midnight. I was up late. Couldn't sleep. Saw vehicle lights on the dirt road that runs along your southern boundary. 2 trucks, maybe 3. Moving slow, no headlights, just parking lights. Thought it was strange, but figured maybe night fishermen heading to the creek." "Did you get a license plate?" "Partial. Gave it to the fire marshal, but there's more." He handed me the business card. "They found this at one of the ignition points." The card read, J. Peterson, Paradise Valley Development Corp. The same company. The same man who texted Derek. "The fire marshal says it's arson. Ansel. 3 separate ignition points. Accelerant residue. Someone burned your farm deliberately." The world tilted again. Not a natural disaster. Not bad luck. Murder. Because that's what it was. Killing a way of life. Destroying a home. Murder of everything that mattered. "Derek," Sarah whispered. She'd gone pale. "He did this. Or had someone do it. We don't know that for sure," I said, but even as I spoke, I was remembering. The text message. Perfect timing. "Make your move." He was planning this, Sarah said. Maybe for months. Maybe for years. Waiting for the right moment. Tom looked between us. "Who's Derek?" "My son-in-law," I said. "And I think you're right, Sarah. I think he did this." We went back to Tom's house. He made coffee, and we told him everything. The theft, the lapsed insurance, the conservatorship plan, the relationship between Derek and Peterson. When we finished, Tom was quiet for a long time. "You need to tell the fire marshal," he said finally. "Tell her what?" "That my son-in-law has a text message that could mean anything? That he knows a developer? It's not proof. It's a start," Tom said. "And sometimes that's all you need. First spark leads to the whole fire." He pulled out his phone, dialed a number. "Linda? Tom Crawford." "Yeah. Listen, Ansel Whitmore's here with me. I think you two need to talk." 20 minutes later, Deputy Fire Marshal Linda Hayes arrived. She was in her 40s, sharp-eyed and thorough. She listened to everything, took notes, asked pointed questions. "Mr. Whitmore," she said when we finished, "I can confirm the fire was arson. We have clear evidence of that. What I don't have is enough to make an arrest. The business card helps, but it's not conclusive. Could have been dropped innocently. No fingerprints survived the fire. What you're telling me about your son-in-law is concerning, but I need more. Phone records? Financial connections? Something that ties him directly to the crime." "What do we do?" Sarah asked. Linda looked at her kindly. "You build a case. Document everything. Every conversation, every text, every financial transaction. If Derek's involved, he'll make a mistake. They always do. And when he does, he'll be ready." She left us her card, said to call any time, day or night. After she left, the 3 of us sat in Tom's kitchen. The sun was setting, painting the mountains in shades of orange and red. Like fire, but beautiful. Cleansing instead of destroying. "What's the plan?" Tom asked. "We investigate," I said. "If Derek did this, we prove it. If Peterson's behind it, we prove that too." and we make sure they face justice. I still have my veterinary license, Sarah said. I could work again, make money, help with expenses. Well, figure it out, I said. Together. Sarah smiled, a real smile, the first I'd seen in years. Together, she repeated. That night, in the small cabin, I lay on the pull-out couch while Sarah took the bedroom. I could hear her breathing, steady and deep. Sleep of someone finally feeling safe. I thought about Margaret, wondered what she'd think of all this. She'd be proud of Sarah for leaving, angry at Derek. Probably would have seen through him from the start. Margaret always was a better judge of character. Tomorrow, we'd start fighting back. Tonight, we'd rest. Sometimes that's all you can do. Rest, regroup, and prepare for the battle ahead. Morning brought purpose. I woke early, habit too strong to break. Made coffee in Tom's kitchen while the world was still dark. Tom found me there, already dressed. Couldn't sleep either, he asked. Too much to think about. Then let's get thinking productive. We sat down with notebooks and started mapping out what we knew, what we needed to prove. Sarah joined us an hour later, and we kept working. First call was to Linda Hayes. She picked up immediately. I need to know more about the investigation, I said. What exactly did you find? Linda was quiet for a moment, probably considering what she could share. 3 ignition points. All on your property perimeter. Gasoline-based accelerant. Timing suggests they were set within minutes of each other. Coordinated. The fire spread fast because of wind conditions and dry undergrowth. Whoever did this knew what they were doing and planned it carefully. And the business card. Found at the southeast ignition point. It had been exposed to heat, but not fully burned. We ran it for prints, but the heat damage made that inconclusive. However, the card itself is recent stock. That company, Paradise Valley Development, only started using that particular card design 4 months ago. Narrows the timeline. What about Peterson himself? We've talked to him. He claims no knowledge of how his card ended up there. Says he hands them out at networking events, leaves them everywhere. Could be telling the truth, or could be lying, Sarah said. That's what I'm trying to determine, Linda said. Keep gathering information. It helps. After we hung up, Sarah opened her old laptop. She'd barely used it in years. Derek had bought her a tablet he could monitor. But the laptop still worked. Still had her old bookmarks. Her old research tools. Let me see what I can find on Peterson, she said. She worked for 2 hours, making notes, following links. What she found was damning. James Peterson started Paradise Valley Development 18 months ago. Before that, he worked for various real estate firms in Montana and Idaho. There are 2 lawsuits against him from previous business dealings. One from a rancher near Missoula who claimed Peterson used intimidation tactics to force a sale. That one settled out of court. Another from a widow in Idaho Falls who said Peterson took advantage of her after her husband died. That one was dismissed on technicalities. Pattern, Tom said. Exactly. And look at this. Sarah turned the laptop so we could see. Peterson and Derek attended the same business networking events. They're both members of the Bozeman Commerce Association, and Derek's real estate company handled 2 previous transactions for Peterson. They weren't strangers. They were business associates. I felt anger building, hot and focused. They planned this together. Looks like it. But we need more. Then let's get more, I said. That afternoon, Sarah and I drove into Bozeman. We parked down the street from Derek's office building, a modern glass structure in the commercial district. Waited and watched. At 12:30, Derek emerged. Suit and tie, sunglasses. That confident walk of someone who thinks he's untouchable. He got in his BMW, and we followed at a distance. He drove to an upscale steakhouse downtown. Parked. Went inside. We waited 5 minutes. Then I walked past the restaurant window. Derek sat at a corner table. Across from him sat a man in his 50s, graying hair, expensive watch. They were deep in conversation. I snapped photos through the window with Sarah's phone. Not great quality, but enough. The man was James Peterson. Had to be. Sarah pulled up his photo from the company website. Same man. They ate lunch together for over an hour. When they came out, I photographed them again. Peterson clapped Derek on the shoulder, laughing. Partners, friends, co-conspirators. We followed Peterson after lunch. He drove to a construction site east of town. Big development. Houses going up on what had been ranch land. Signs everywhere. Paradise Valley Estates. Coming 2026. Luxury living in big sky country. I got out of the truck, walked the perimeter. Something about the land looked familiar. Then it hit me. This was the Miller Ranch. Frank Miller's place. Frank Miller had been a neighbor, sort of. His ranch was 20 miles from mine. But in Montana, that makes you neighbors. Had sold out 2 years back. It heard rumors it wasn't by choice. I know this place. I told Sarah. The family that owned it, something happened. They sold under pressure. Think Peterson was involved. It bet my remaining cattle on it. We drove into town. Found the Miller's name in the phone book. Yes, I still use phone books. Called them. Asked if we could talk. Frank's wife Martha answered. Said they'd moved into a small house near the high school. Gave us the address. The house was a far cry from a ranch. 1,200 square feet, chain-link fence, neighbors so close you could hear their televisions. Frank answered the door. Had aged since I'd seen him. Looked older than his 68 years. Ansel, he said. Heard about your place. Terrible thing. Can we come in? I need to ask you about your ranch. Frank's face closed down. That's done. In the past. Please, Sarah said. It's important. Martha came to the door. Let them in, Frank. We sat in their cramped living room. I explained what happened. The fire, the investigation, the connection between Derek and Peterson. Peterson bought your ranch, I said, 2 years ago. What happened? Frank was quiet for a long time. Then, you don't want to know. I need to know. Frank sighed, looked at Martha. She nodded. Started with the cattle. 20 head died over 3 weeks, vet said poisoned water. We tested everything, never found the source. Then the barn. Support beams gave way. Collapsed in the middle of the night. Killed 4 horses. Inspector said the beams had been cut partway through. Sabotage. But no proof. No suspects. Equipment, I asked. Tractor caught fire. Combine's engine seized, metal shavings in the oil. Fences got cut. We'd fix them, they'd get cut again. It was constant. Relentless. We were hemorrhaging money. Couldn't keep up. Insurance. Wouldn't cover half of it. Called it negligence. Poor maintenance. We went into debt. Banks started calling. We were going to lose everything. Then Peterson showed up. Martha said, voice bitter. Offered $800,000. Frank continued. The land was worth $2 million, maybe more. But we were drowning. Had no choice. We took it. Did you report any of this? Sarah asked. To who? Sheriff came out after the barn collapse. Found nothing. Said we needed better security. After that, we stopped calling. What's the point when no one believes you? I believe you, I said, and I think Peterson did the same thing to me. Burned me out so I'd have to sell. Frank looked up sharply. The fire was arson. Fire marshal confirmed it. 3 ignition points, accelerant, coordinated timing. Professional job, then you have proof. More than we ever did. Not enough. Not yet. Frank, would you be willing to make a statement? Tell the fire marshal what happened to you. Frank shook his head immediately. We're done fighting. It cost us everything already. Our son won't even talk to us. Blames us for giving up the family ranch. I can't do it again. If we don't stop them, Sarah said, they'll do this to someone else. Martha leaned forward. She's right, Frank. We've been living with guilt for 2 years. Maybe this is how we make it right. Frank looked at his wife, then at me. If I do this, if I help you, what changes? We're still in this house. The ranch is still gone. Maybe nothing changes for you, I said honestly. But maybe someone else doesn't lose their home. Maybe Peterson and Derek go to jail. Maybe that's worth something. Frank was quiet. Then, all right, I'll talk to the fire marshal. Tell her everything. Relief flooded through me. Thank you. We got Frank's detailed timeline. Names of other ranchers who had sold to Peterson. 2 more names came up. Helen Brady and Robert Chen. We tried Chen first. Head moved to Oregon after selling his ranch. When we called, he refused to talk. Said Head moved on and wanted to stay moved on. Couldn't blame him. Helen Brady was different. She was 73, living in an assisted living facility in Bozeman. When we visited, she was sharp as ever, angry about what had happened. My husband died suddenly, she said. Heart attack, they said. He was 68, healthy as a horse, then 2 weeks later, dead. Autopsy was inconclusive. Could have been natural. Could have been something else. You think it wasn't natural? Sarah asked gently. I think my husband told Peterson to go to hell. Told him we'd never sell our ranch. Then, 2 weeks later, he's dead, and Peterson's lawyer shows up at the funeral. At the funeral. Offered to take the burden of the ranch off my hands. Said I couldn't run it alone. He was right about that. But the timing. She shook her head. I can't prove anything, but he'll never believe it was coincidence. Will you talk to the fire marshal? Already did. Month ago. Told her everything. Don't know if it helped. It did help. Every piece was one more part of the pattern. We were building something, slowly but surely. Over the next week, we worked constantly. Sarah got a job at a veterinary clinic in Livingston. Part-time, but it was income. I worked with Tom, helping with his cattle, earning my keep. Evenings, we investigated. Sarah became an expert at online research. She found connections between Peterson's shell companies, traced money flows, discovered that Derek had invested $50,000 in one of Peterson's developments. Financial ties. Linda Hayes stayed in touch. Said the investigation was progressing. Shed subpoenaed phone records, was building a timeline. It was slow but moving. Then, 2 weeks after we left Derek's house, Linda called with news. I traced the partial license plate Tom gave me, registered to a shell company. That company has ties to Peterson's business network. And there's more. I pulled Derek's phone records. He made a call to one of Peterson's employees at 11:47 p.m., the night before your fire. That employee's phone pinged off a cell tower within 2 miles of your ranch at that time. That's evidence, I said. It's a start. Not enough for an arrest, but enough to make Derek very nervous. Which brings me to the problem. Derek just filed a police report. Claims you threatened him and stole $10,000 from Sarah. Hez seeking a restraining order and criminal charges against you. He also filed an emergency petition for conservatorship. Hearing is in 4 days. The ground shifted under me again. Hez trying to discredit me. Exactly. Preemptive strike. If he can get you declared incompetent and get a restraining order, your testimony becomes questionable. It's smart, legally speaking. What do? You fight. And you'd better get a good lawyer. I hung up and looked at Sarah and Tom. Derek's making his move. Court hearing in 4 days. Tom stood up. Then we've got 4 days to prepare. I know a lawyer, Pat Donovan. She's expensive, but she's good. Used to be a prosecutor. I can't afford expensive. I can, Tom said. Consider it a loan. Or don't. Consider it what it is. Help from a friend. Now make the call. I called Patricia Donovan. When I explained the situation, she got quiet. Then, that's elder abuse dressed up in legal language. I hate that. How soon can you get to my office? 30 minutes. See you then. And Mr. Whitmore? We're going to bury him. Patricia Donovan's office was in an old building downtown Livingston. The kind with high ceilings and creaky floors. She was 58, gray hair pulled back, reading glasses on a chain. She looked like somebody's grandmother until you saw her eyes. Those eyes were predator sharp. She listened to everything without interrupting. Took notes in quick, efficient handwriting. When we finished, she sat back in her chair. This is a good case. Not easy, but good. Derek's made mistakes. The phone records. The financial ties to Peterson. The timing of everything. But here's the problem. Hez trying to flip the script. Make you the villain. Himself the victim. We need to counter that hard and fast. How? Testimony, documentation, proof that you're competent, stable, and telling the truth. Sarah's testimony will be crucial. Frank Miller's too. Helen Brady's. We build a pattern that shows Peterson's methods and Derek's involvement. What about the arson investigation? Linda Hayes can testify to the evidence. Won't be enough to convict Derek criminally. Not yet. But it'll be enough to raise serious questions about his motives. We spent 4 days preparing. Pat was relentless, drilling us on testimony, anticipating every angle Derek's lawyer might take. She subpoenaed Derek's financial records, his phone records, got everything she could legally obtain. Sarah provided written testimony about the theft, the abuse, Derek's manipulation. Tom, Frank, and Helen provided character witness statements about me. Pat assembled it all into a narrative that was damning. The hearing was set for Thursday morning at the Park County Courthouse in Livingston. Small courtroom, wood paneling, Montana state flag in the corner, Judge Margaret Thornton presiding. Judge Thornton was in her mid-60s, former rancher herself before going to law school. Reputation for being tough but fair, no patience for legal games or grandstanding. Derek arrived with his lawyer, Clayton Pierce. Pierce was from a big firm in Billings, expensive suit, expensive briefcase, the kind of lawyer who made $600 an hour. Derek wouldn't look at us, sat on his side of the courtroom, staring straight ahead. The hearing began. Pierce presented Derek's case first. Argued that I was unstable, paranoid, making wild accusations without proof. Brought up the fire. Suggested it might have been negligent. Said I'd let my insurance lapse through poor financial management. Mr. Whitmore is clearly not capable of managing his own affairs, Pierce said. Hess making serious accusations against my client based on circumstantial evidence and conspiracy theories. Hess turned his daughter against her husband, disrupted their marriage, all because he can't accept that he needs help. Pierce called Derek to the stand. Derek was polished, calm, looked reasonable and concerned. I love my father-in-law, Derek said. I offered him a home after the fire, but he became aggressive, accusatory. Started claiming I was involved in the fire, that I'd stolen from him. It's heartbreaking to see him decline like this. Tell the court about the $10,000, Pierce said. That was a loan. Sarah took it from Ansell's account with his permission, transferred it to us for safekeeping. We were going to invest it for him. But then, he forgot about it, claimed we'd stolen it. That's when I realized how serious his memory problems were. And the business relationship with James Peterson. Purely professional. I've done a few deals with his company. That's all. I hand out business cards to everyone I meet. I have no idea how one ended up at the fire site. Probably a coincidence. Pat's turned to cross-examine. She stood slowly, picked up a stack of papers. Mr. Sutton, you said you have a purely professional relationship with Mr. Peterson. How many phone calls have you exchanged in the past 6 months? Derek hesitated. I don't know exactly. 47, Pat said. I have the records right here. That's more than one call every 4 days. Seems like more than purely professional. We're friendly. That doesn't mean anything. Pat pulled out printed text messages. These are texts between you and Mr. Peterson. I'd like to read one from 3 months ago. Quote, the Whitmore problem needs to be resolved. That old man is sitting on prime real estate. End quote. Can you explain what that means? Taken out of context. We were discussing potential listings. By calling Mr. Whitmore a problem, figure of speech. Pat smiled. Not a nice smile. Let's talk about the night before the fire. You made a call at 11:47 p.m. to a number registered to Marcus Hill. Mr. Hill works for one of Mr. Peterson's subsidiary companies. Why were you calling him at nearly midnight? Derek shifted in his seat. I don't recall that call. Phone records don't lie. The call lasted 4 minutes. Mr. Hill's phone pinged off a cell tower within 2 miles of Mr. Whitmore's ranch at that exact time. What were you discussing? I have no idea. Maybe a work matter. At midnight. I work late sometimes. Pat pulled out another document. This is a receipt for a boat purchase. 26-foot cabin cruiser. Purchased 3 months ago for $60,000. The payment came from an account in your name. That same week, $10,000 was withdrawn from Mr. Whitmore's account. Coincidence. The boat purchase was separate. Unrelated. But convenient timing, Pierce objected. Judge Thornton overruled. Pat continued. Mr. Sutton, how much is Mr. Whitmore's property worth? I don't know. Guess. $2 million maybe. Try 3. I had it appraised. 200 acres in Paradise Valley, water rights, development potential. $3.2 million. That's quite an inheritance for your wife. Except there's a condition in the will, isn't there? Derek's jaw tightened. I don't know what you're talking about. Pat handed him a copy of my will. Please read the highlighted section. Derek read silently, face reddening. Out loud. Please, Judge Thornton said. Derek read through gritted teeth. I leave my entire estate to my daughter Sarah, on the condition that she remain married to Derek Sutton for no less than 5 years from the date of my death, or until such time as Derek Sutton demonstrates financial malfeasance, theft, or fraud against any family member. So if Sarah divorces you, Pat said, she loses the inheritance, unless you commit fraud, which you did, by stealing $10,000, which means Sarah can divorce you and still inherit. Quite a problem for you, isn't it? I didn't steal anything, Derek said, but his voice lacked conviction. Your face says otherwise. Pierce stood. Objection. Counsel is badgering. Sustained, Judge Thornton said. Move on, Miss Donovan. Pat nodded. No further questions. Sarah testified next. She was nervous but clear. Described years of Derek's control, the isolation, the manipulation, how he convinced her to take the money. "I know what I did was wrong," she said. "I take full responsibility. But Derek orchestrated it. He made me believe I was helping my father, when really, I was helping him steal." Pierce tried to discredit her. "You're divorcing my client, aren't you? You have financial motive to lie." Sarah looked him in the eye. "I'm divorcing him because I finally saw who he really is. Yes, I'll lose financially in the short term, but I'll gain my soul back. That's worth more than any amount of money." The courtroom went quiet. Even Pierce had no response to that. Frank Miller testified about the pattern of Peterson's land acquisitions, the suspicious accidents, the pressure tactics. Linda Hayes testified about the arson investigation. Described the evidence in detail: 3 ignition points, accelerant, the business card, the phone records linking Derek to an employee whose phone was near my ranch the night before the fire. "Is Derek Sutton a suspect in your investigation?" Pat asked. "Has a person of interest," Linda said carefully. "The evidence suggests involvement but isn't conclusive yet. The investigation is ongoing." Judge Thornton leaned forward. "Mr. Sutton, I'm going to ask you directly. Did you have any involvement in the fire that destroyed Mr. Whitmore's property?" Derek stood. "Absolutely not, Your Honor. These accusations are slanderous. I'm being railroaded because an old man can't accept that he needs help." Pat played her final card. "Shed saved it, waiting for the right moment. But I didn't burn down his farm. I didn't do anything illegal." "Then explain the phone records," Pat said calmly. "I can't. I don't remember every call I make." "Convenient." Pierce grabbed Derek's arm, trying to get him to sit down and shut up, but Derek shook him off. "This whole hearing is a joke. That land should be mine. Sarah's my wife. What's his is hers, and what's hers is mine. That's marriage." Judge Thornton's face went cold. "Sit down, Mr. Sutton." "Now." Derek sat, breathing hard, face purple. Judge Thornton called a 15-minute recess. During the break, Pierce approached Pat. They spoke in low tones near the back of the courtroom. Then Pierce came to where I sat with Sarah and Tom. "My client is willing to make an offer," he said. "Hell, drop all charges, and the conservatorship petition. Hell, sign a confession about the $10,000. Hell, agree to an uncontested divorce. In exchange, Mr. Whitmore agrees not to pursue criminal charges related to the fire. Hell's trying to buy his way out," Sarah said. "It's a reasonable offer," Pierce said. "Saves everyone time and money." I looked at Pat. She pulled me aside. "There's something you should know," she said quietly. "I got a call this morning from an FBI agent. They've been watching Peterson for months, part of a larger fraud and racketeering investigation. Derek's phone records connected him to their case. If you accept this deal, Derek might slip past federal prosecution. If you refuse, and the hearing continues, Derek will likely face both state arson charges and federal racketeering charges. The decision is yours." I didn't need to think long. Some decisions make themselves. "No deal," I said. "Some things matter more than convenience. If he did this to me, hell, do it to others. We finish this." Pat smiled. "I was hoping you'd say that." The hearing resumed. Judge Thornton looked at both sides. "I've heard enough," she said. "Mr. Sutton, your behavior in this courtroom has been concerning, to say the least. The evidence presented suggests a pattern of manipulation and possible criminal activity. The conservatorship petition is denied. Mr. Whitmore has demonstrated complete competence and sound judgment throughout these proceedings." Derek started to stand. Pierce pulled him back down. "The criminal charges against Mr. Whitmore are dismissed," Judge Thornton continued. "No evidence of theft or threats. The motion appears to be retaliatory and without merit. Furthermore, I'm issuing a restraining order. Mr. Sutton, you are not to contact Mr. Whitmore or Sarah Whitmore in any way." "Your Honor," Pierce began. "I'm not finished. I'm referring this case to the district attorney for potential prosecution. The evidence of arson and fraud is substantial enough to warrant criminal investigation. This court is adjourned." The gavel came down. Derek left the courthouse surrounded by lawyers. He didn't look at us, didn't look at anyone, just walked to his BMW and drove away. Outside, Sarah hugged me. "We did it. First round," I said. "This isn't over." But it felt good, felt like winning, even if the war wasn't finished. 2 weeks later, Derek was arrested. State charges for arson and fraud. Federal charges for racketeering. Peterson and 2 of his employees were arrested the same day. The FBI had been building a case for 8 months. Our evidence helped push it over the edge. The news coverage was extensive. Local papers ran the story for days. Montana ranchers victimized by development scheme. Local lumber company donated materials at cost. Contractors volunteered labor. Volunteer crews came out on weekends to help clear the burned land, prepare the site for rebuilding. Sarah moved into Tom's foreman cabin with me while construction happened. She got a full-time position at the veterinary clinic in Livingston, started making real money again. But more than that, she was rediscovering herself. We worked side by side, father and daughter, the way we had when she was young, cleared debris, planned the new house, talked about everything and nothing. Our relationship, which had been dying for years, came back to life. The new house rose slowly. We weren't trying to recreate what was lost. Couldn't if we'd wanted to. Instead, we built something new. Smaller, simpler, more efficient. One story, easier for me to manage as I aged. Solar panels on the roof, modern insulation, propane heating system. Not the house I grew up in, but a house that fit who I was now. 6 months passed. The house was finished. Small but solid. I moved in on a cold November morning. Sarah helped me unpack the few belongings it accumulated. Most of it was new. Starting over means starting with almost nothing. Sarah moved into her own apartment in Livingston, small studio above a bookstore. Her first place alone in 10 years. She was nervous but excited. "I forgot what it feels like," she said, "making my own decisions. Being responsible only for myself." She started dating again. Met a guy named Connor, large animal veterinarian who worked with ranch livestock. He was kind, respectful, gave her space. They took things slow. After Derek, she needed slow. Connor came out to the farm one Sunday, helped me mend fence, worked alongside me without complaining. Good guy. At dinner, he and Sarah laughed together, easy and natural. Watching them, I felt something loosen in my chest. Hope, maybe, or just happiness at seeing my daughter smile without fear behind her eyes. The cattle herd grew back, 52 head now, healthy and thriving. Not quite what id had before, but close. Tom gave me 3 heifers from his stock. Other ranchers sold me cattle at below-market prices. That community support again, lifting you when you're down. Tom became part of our lives in a way he hadn't been before. Stopped by 3 or 4 times a week. We'd sit on my new porch, drink coffee, watch the mountains, sometimes talking, sometimes just being quiet together. The friendship forged in war, deepened by crisis. One evening in early spring, almost a year after the fire, Tom and I sat watching the sunset. The sky turned orange and purple, clouds lit from beneath. Beautiful enough to hurt. "You could have taken the easy path," Tom said. "Accepted Derek's deal, been done with it." "Easy paths don't lead to anything worth having," I said. "I learned that from farming. You put in the work, you weather the storms, you rebuild. That's how you create something that lasts." Tom nodded. "You created something good here. Better than what was before, maybe. Different, anyway. Different can be better." The next Sunday, Sarah brought Connor to dinner. We cooked together in my small kitchen. Steaks from our own cattle, vegetables from the garden Sarah had planted in the spring. The first garden this land had seen in decades. Margaret would have approved. After dinner, Connor and Sarah did dishes. I could hear them laughing, talking about their week. Normal couple things. The kind of things Sarah never got to do with Derek. I walked outside, alone, looked at the land. The barn, rebuilt and painted red. The cattle grazing in the pasture. The mountains beyond, eternal and unchanging. This place had tried to kill me. Or rather, people using this place had tried to kill me. But the land itself was innocent. The land endured. I thought about Margaret. Wished she could see this. The new house, Sarah healing, the farm coming back to life. She'd be proud. Maybe she could see it. I like to think so. Derek's trial was set for next month. Prosecutors said he was looking at 15 to 20 years in federal prison. Peterson was facing similar charges. His company had been dissolved. Assets seized. 3 other ranchers had come forward with evidence. Cases reopened. The Miller family's son reconciled with his parents, helped them file a lawsuit to recover their losses. Justice was slow, but it was coming. That had to be enough. I walked back inside. Sarah saw me, smiled. "You okay, Dad?" "Better than okay," I said. "I'm home." And I was. Not the same home, not the same life, but home nonetheless. Built on stronger foundations this time. Built on truth and family and the hard work of rebuilding what's been destroyed. They tried to burn me out, break me down, steal everything I'd built. And they did take a lot. The house Margaret and I raised Sarah in. The barn my father built. 50 years of accumulated memories. They took all of that. But they couldn't take what mattered most. My dignity. My family. My ability to stand up and fight back. I'm 67 years old. I've buried a wife, lost a home, faced betrayal from people I trusted, been called homeless by my own son-in-law. But I'm still here. The land is still here. Tomorrow, wake up at 5:30, make coffee, check the cattle, mend whatever needs mending. Because that's what we do. We endure. We rebuild. We keep going. And in the end, that's the greatest victory of all. Not revenge, though justice feels good. Not wealth, though financial security matters. The greatest victory is standing up when everything in you wants to fall down. It's choosing the hard right over the easy wrong. It's protecting not just yourself but the people who come after you. Life will test you in ways you never imagined. People you trust will disappoint you. Sometimes those people will be family. Disasters will strike when you're least prepared. Natural or man-made, fire burns the same. But your response to these trials defines who you are. Not your wealth, not your possessions, not even your relationships. Your character when everything else is stripped away. Stand firm in your principles. Fight for what's right, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Choose the long road to real justice over the shortcut to personal comfort. Rebuild with patience and purpose. Let the community help you. Accept that kindness exists alongside cruelty. And remember this above all else. A house can burn down, but a home lives in the people who love each other and the values they share. That can never be destroyed. Not by fire, not by betrayal, not by time itself. I learned that the hard way. Standing at Derek's door, homeless and ash-covered, holding a will that changed everything. Sometimes you need to lose everything to understand what really matters. Sometimes you need to be called homeless to remember what home actually means. It's not walls and a roof. It's not land deeds and bank accounts. Home is the people who stand with you when the flames come. Home is the daughter who finds her courage. Home is the friend who offers shelter without asking for anything in return. Home is the community that rebuilds alongside you. I've got all of that now, more than I had before the fire, in the ways that count. The house is smaller, but the life is bigger. That's a fair trade. Spring came to Montana with wildflowers and new calves. Sarah planted more garden, talked about maybe getting chickens. Connor proposed in June, a simple proposal on my front porch with just family present. She said yes, and this time, watching her face, I knew it was right. They're getting married next fall. Small ceremony, here on the farm. Sarah asked if I'd build an arbor for them to stand under. I said yes. Started collecting wood, planning the design. Something simple but strong, like everything else we've built here. This is the life we get. Not the one we planned, not the one we lost, but the one we built from ashes and determination. And it's good. It's real. It's home. So let me ask you something. Have you ever had to rebuild your life from nothing? Have you faced betrayal from people you trusted? How did you find the strength to keep going? Share your story in the comments. Maybe your words will help someone else who's standing in the ashes of their own life, wondering if they can go on. If this story moved you, if it made you think about resilience and justice and the meaning of home, please hit that like button. Subscribe to hear more stories about real people facing real challenges. Share this with someone who needs to hear that rebuilding is possible, that standing up to injustice matters, that home is something you carry inside you even when everything external burns away. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being part of this community. May you never face the fires I faced, but if you do, may you find the strength to rebuild. May you know when to fight and when to let go. May you understand that home isn't a place but a feeling, and that feeling can survive anything. Take care of each other out there. Stand up for what's right. And remember, the greatest victory isn't avoiding the fall. It's getting back up.